Dank u, dank u. Dank u, Utrecht. Dank u, Utrecht. Een vriend van mij vraagt wel eens, als hij ergens naartoe gaat, is dat voorbij Apkoude? Wij zijn arrogante Amsterdammers. We zijn blij dat we hier vanavond in Utrecht mogen zijn. Samen met de trein gekomen. Fantastisch. Voor wie nu thuis zit te kijken, we zijn hier in Seats to Meet. We zijn hier in Utrecht. Veel van u kennen natuurlijk die locatie. En we zijn hier met, nou wat zal het zijn, 150 mensen wellicht zoiets. Die hier al een prachtige dag achter de rug hebben. En in de zaal moesten zitten, omdat wij zeiden we kunnen niet zonder publiek. Eigenlijk wilden ze wel een biertje drinken volgens mij. Maar goed, dat terzijde. Waarom zijn we hier? We zijn hier ter gelegenheid van de lancering van het boek The Serendipity Machine. We hebben hier de schrijver bij zich. En nu ben ik je naam, weet je, dat krijg je ook weer als je zo druk zit te maken. Sebastian, dat weet ik nog van de Sinterklaas, wou ik al zeggen. En dat was al de kerstman. Maar voor de rest gaat alles goed met mij. Sebastian Olma en we have a friend from Finland with us, Teemu Arina. The two of them have been doing a tour to promote the book, but to talk as well about the future of work. So that is what we are talking about in this half hour. Roland Stekelenburg en Erwin Blom praten normaal gesproken in het Engels, maar zoals je ziet doen we dat, zeg ik ook alweer verkeerd, hè?
Vandaag.
Ik geef het woord aan Roland Stekelenburg.
Ja, daar kom je weer makkelijk vanaf. Now we switch to English and stick to English, all right? Shall we agree? Okay, then we can make it a conversation. Anyway, your book was launched today. How long have you been working on this project? You need to hold the microphone there. That's the
Oh yeah.
We have a small
Right.
logistic problem. If I ask him a question, you hold the
I
microphone
hold the
there.
microphone.
and vice
Okay.
versa. Yeah?
It's a special evening.
Okay.
All right. So,
How long have you been working on this project?
yeah. I mean, we started, Julia Kristeva and I, who not just assisted me in the project, but who was really sort of a partner on eye level in this, in the summer. So in July, I think, and August, we traveled through Holland and interviewed, people running Seats to Meet locations, but also users, and really the network that builds around these locations. And so I think, all in all, it took maybe 2 months to produce the book. Yeah.
Okay, that's not too long.
It's also not too long. I mean, the book is not.
It's not
70
very
pages
thick,
or
but if I look at the book and I've read the things I could download, you are really, adoring the concept of Seats to Meet. Is that correct? You're very enthusiastic about it, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. I was more thinking in terms of keeping a critical distance from it, but that was slightly difficult
that
because. No, I mean it didn't go wrong. I mean the thing was that when I first encountered the model, the concept of the company Seats to Meet. I've been doing research in this area, in the area of how do we organize knowledge and creativity in a sustainable and efficient way in order to generate value in a manner that is apt to our times and to our sort of stage of development about 10 years ago. And the first thing coming across the concept and across the business was that I thought it was a sham. I thought, this is not possible. I mean, this is a nice story. Of course, I also read Ronald's book, and I thought, really, somebody has written it for him, and pushing all the right buttons.
Yeah, that's
and
what we thought as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We invited him to our show.
Apparently, it was Santa. I mean, he sort of claimed the book today a little bit as well, didn't he? But
no, Ronald was in our show, in our regular show. And really, he did his utmost to explain the concept to me of Seats to Meet. But I still have some difficulties. Maybe to the people at home, you can explain it. I mean, it's a concept. Everything is free. You can work here for free. You get coffee for free. You get lunch for free. And still it has a business model. I mean, how does it work? I mean, and then don't talk about serendipity because people don't understand it and creating value. But where does the money come from?
Well, I think that's the wrong question. I mean, it's not a business model in the old sense of business model. It's actually, I mean, we talk a lot about business models these days. There have been a couple of quite influential publications around business models, but they are, and they sort of sell themselves as revolutionary or sort of path-breaking, but they are not. They're all talking about old business models. What Seeds to Meet has done is to create not just a different business model, but a sort of different model of a business model, a model that takes social capital serious and really engages with networks and gives people the opportunity to share, you know, in a way that is, you know, that just comes organically and natural to them, you know, in terms of social capital.
Yeah, Teemu, you agree that it was the wrong question. I saw you agreeing. Why?
Well, I could easily start a debate here, but I have a few things that I want to bring up. We are still working within the industrial system, right? Even the book cover has the title Serendipity Machine, machine pointing to the Industrial Revolution. Is it really a machine, or is it something totally different? Do we have to invent a completely new language to describe what's going on? Are we really talking about business models, right? So
you tell us.
yeah, so this is a great opportunity, a great time for us to rethink the way how we do things. Are we really talking about machines or maybe ecologies? You know, in biology, we are talking about diversity of different connections that might be happening when we talk about ecology. And maybe that might be a much better description than a machine being something that is tailored, designed, top-down, like an assembly line.
But then still, and I'm trying to, I know, of course, how it works here. But the thing remains that you did a really good job in the book, but you need, it's a small book, but you need a book to explain it. Isn't that a sort of a difficult thing in those times? Because what you say, of course, is it a machine? But most people seem to need words and models from the past to understand the future. So is it a problem for something like Seeds to Meet that you need to be here and understand it? You need to be here to understand it. Is that a
Yeah, you could say that, and I mean, of course, you know, one of the disadvantages of sort of, you know, social evolution, if you will, or, you know, sort of social development is that I mean, yeah, you know, you have to come up with new words for new phenomena. I mean, that is also a definition that actually Gilles Deleuze gave, you know, when he talked about philosophy. But the thing is, you have to communicate. So, you know, you have to give people some sort of idea of what's going on. So you have to use concepts and words, you know, that people understand, and hence a machine that actually works through the ecology that Teemu talks about, and then makes it accessible and visual and
so why did you use the word machine?
Well, because, as I said, you know, it is a machine that works through networks, that works through the mesh being the network of networks, and that is able to actually, you know, connect networks, that is able to sort of, you know, actualize or mobilize, you know, very weak links that you won't be able to you know, to mobilize yourself, and that's why it has sort of a machinic character. But machine is also a concept that we use in philosophy. It's not. I mean, it's not only a you know, Tayloristic or a Fordist notion. It is. I mean, the computer is also a machine, right? And but yeah, I mean, mainly as a way of communicating. I mean, you know, we're putting serendipity in the title. That's a difficult concept.
Yeah.
But
One difficult word is enough in the title.
Yeah, well, that's also why we use the.
There's one thing from the people at home. You have to keep the microphone closer to the mouth. I don't know why. Somebody's complaining. But also another question on Twitter for you, Sebastian. Hans Damen is asking which part of your book was written by yourself, and how much by third parties, the concept of co-creation, isn't it?
Very good.
Yeah.
No, very good. I mean, that also answers the question of why do you need 70 pages then to explain it? Because we wanted to give space, you know, to the community, to the users. And so, you know, you find lots of examples of stories of people who, you know, I mean, of course, you know, we're trying to conceptually explain what serendipity is, but we also, you know, make loads of space for people to sort of share their story and, you know, give examples and cases of, you know, how they experience it, because you're absolutely right. You know, it's difficult to convey what's going on. I mean, you have to experience it. Yeah.
Yes, but the question was, of course, there is something. This is about co-working, and a book most of the time is a project by one person writing it. And in your case, that was the case as well.
Well, I mean, I wrote it together with, I mean, Julia helped me to sort of visualize the stuff that I was talking about, which was a great collaboration. But I mean, yeah, you know, I mean, in the end, you know, you need someone who actually can write and sort of can put their ideas into a certain shape, you know, that makes it then, you know, readable or consumable or absorbable, you know, to the rest of the world. And not, that's a question of craftsmanship. I mean, I'm not saying that to sort of glorify what I did, but you know, that's what it is. You need people to can write, you know, to actually write a book. And I don't know. I thought yeah. I mean, it's not my first book, so I've written books.
That's a good thing. What we do, I just posed the question that Twitter asks. It's not my. I agree.
No, it was it was the question of Hans, but Teemu, you agreed again. First. We haven't met before, so I'm sure a lot of people back home who are watching the live stream also don't know you. You're from Finland. What are you doing in Finland?
So I have a pretty long history of being an entrepreneur.
Oh, cut it short.
Yes, I started when I was 16. I founded my first company. I became a critique of the modern educational system, and I became well known for talking about a new approach to education, especially from the point of view of technology and internet. And I continued also to the direction of companies and organizations, organizational theory, talking about same kind of changes that are happening there and also in management. And recently I founded a company called Meetings, which is more of a startup, so I'm no longer a consultant. I got tired of giving 100 presentations a year, but I've been working with serendipity actually quite early on. I think I'm one of the first people who put together serendipity with the word learning, and that was in 2007. Over 5 years ago, I gave a presentation. Serendipity 2.0 was the title, and subtitle was Missing Third Places of Learning. So I took Ray Oldenburg's ideas of third places, and I said that education should no longer happen in centralized institutions, educational institutions, but in decentralized networks online and in so-called third spaces. And I talked how important it is to link physical spaces also in completely new ways than what we have understood so far.
Okay, education is the subject of the next session we have here. Your startup, meeting.gs, meetings. What is it about? What do you do?
It's about making a much smarter way, or if I rephrase, it's the smartest way to meet. I think today all interactions start and continue in a digital way. Just like, you know, if I think of the most important interactions I've had over the years with Ronald, for example, we first met online through Joe Pine, and well, we meet sometimes face to face, but then we, you know, keep on interacting online. And this is what I think meetings should be as well. Sometimes we meet face to face, but there is always this kind of back channel conversation going on that keeps the thing going. And meetings is it's a mobile, smartphone, tablet, and web application for coordinating what happens around a meeting, the whole life cycle, from finding a suitable time to exchanging materials, keeping everyone up to date, and taking care of the next action points. The process of the meeting is up to you. We don't emphasize that. We take care of what happens around meetings. And
okay, so it's really about facilitating the new way of working, the new meeting, all that kind of stuff.
In the digital space, also for physical meetings. So I'm not making an online meeting tool. It's not Skype, it's not live video or anything like this. It's for both face-to-face and online meetings.
I think it's one of the great. It's a great example of what Joe Pine calls third space. You know, I mean, if you book a meeting space here at Seats to Meet, you know, immediately you get this virtual space as well. So this is the fusion that Joe talked about. You know, in our presentations, and yeah, I think that's just, you know.
Yeah, to come back to the previous point, somebody on Twitter who was calling himself Italian Passion, very interesting, says that the currency in the business model is actually knowledge and creativity. Do you agree with that?
Naturalmente.
Is
I mean,
Italian passion in? Is she here? Or yes, she's there. Okay.
I mean, I think what Seeds to Meet have done, and that is something that takes, I mean, I think from a business perspective, it takes balls, you could say, to say, all right, we're not trying to, invent some sort of fake money. I mean, there's loads of initiatives in Holland and all over Europe and the world, people who are trying to find these, to create these alternative value systems. But they always, I mean, they tend to fail because they always think money. They think, sort of market exchange. And what Seeds to Meet have done is they said, no, we just accept the mode of social capital, and we just accept that mode, and we make room, for this mode of exchange to take place in our third space.
Yeah, and then Claire Beau, she's our visitor also in the next session, is saying, or is asking, will social capital one day fully replace the normal capital? What do you think?
No, of course. I mean, no, absolutely not. I mean, this is not. We're not saying, that. I mean, of course not. I mean, and I mean, in the same way that you will not have a co-working space running a nuclear power plant. You will not have a social capital. Substituting for old capital. But what we will we get. I think the Ronald always in his presentations talks about there isn't any money anymore, so we have to think about different ways of doing business and exchanging stuff and so forth and so on because of the crisis. And I mean, of course the crisis is a great opportunity to try out new things, and it's not just an opportunity. I mean, we have to, right? Because otherwise we're going to be lost. But I mean, the short answer is no, and the long answer we haven't got the time to. I suppose.
Teemu wants to add something.
Science fiction author Cory Doctorow uses the term woofy to explain this kind of social capital in the future when money no longer exists. It's only something immaterial, a currency that we use, and it's dictated by your actions. So when you do favorable actions, your woofy index increases, and when you do unfavorable actions, it decreases. And it is basically who decides what is favorable and what is unfavorable is the public, is the audience. And that's, I think, pretty interesting also with Twitter. If we talk about the future of work and future of management in general, in companies, manager used to choose their employees. On Twitter, people choose who to follow. In traditional companies, you choose your followers, and that is a change that is happening, that if you're not adding value to someone else's work, they unfollow you, and that is an interesting concept, so it changes totally the sort of power structures.
Then one personal question from me. Of course, I mean, this kind of concepts like Seeds to Meet is really the new way of working for free, independent people. If we talk about a new working in Holland, it's 90% of it is about working at home for people, and that's exactly the opposite of serendipity. When if you work at home, you work in isolation, and you don't, experience that. How do you look at that development? Because obviously employers could go about, working at home in a completely different way and stimulate their employees to, to go to each other and work together in a dislocation. Are you involved in that kind of discussions as well, or how do you look at it?
I mean, I think you're totally right. What the Dutch call the nieuwe werken, or the new kind of work, is complete bollocks. I mean, all it does is to help to raise a company's bottom line. It's another way of sort of cutting cost, and this is not. It's nothing to do with new, and it's nothing to do. Well, it's maybe to do with work, but
Well, it's about avoiding the traffic jam. That's what it is about.
I mean, it's also that, But then again, I mean, you're at home, you're isolated. I mean, you're not isolated because you're connected via virtual channels and so forth and so on. But what is happening in co-working spaces like Seeds to Meet and many others, is something totally different, because there, people get together because they're just fed up, with the working environments, or with the big organization who think up stuff like at nieuwe werken, and they just want to work differently, and that's where experimentation is going on. Not when some corporation says, oh yeah, we implement het nieuwe werken. I mean,
Teemu, when you look at this place here, of course the people who started it and think about it play a really important role because they believe in the strength of this, etc., and they are really good in hospitality, etc. How scalable is something like this? What does it say about the future of work? Is this a future for work?
I think that the case that Seeds to Meet has developed here is really promising. If some of you don't know, we developed already over 10 years ago in Finland a very similar concept. We connected digital space with physical space.
Yeah, but your Finnish are always about 10 years ahead, isn't it?
Well, not.
What are you doing now?
Well, I'm here. I'm.
exactly. Yeah.
So, I think Seeds to Meet has found something really interesting here that actually makes this also into a business by bridging old world with the new world. So many of the things that we did in Finland was completely just about the new world. So what they are doing, they have still meeting rooms, and you do book meetings in those rooms. If you want privacy, or there is a company who's a little bit more traditional, wants to be hip and everything, they want to be where it happens, or innovation, they come to Seeds to Meet and they book a meeting space. That's great, that's a great way for doing it. And then it becomes that the social capital is actually the marketing, the free marketing. And it actually adds much more on the bottom line, much more than just living without it.
That's a simple way of looking at it, that people are twittering about how good food they get, etc. Yeah. But you say that's that would be only the marketing bit. There's so much more happening here. Sorry, but that's what a lot of people see. That's the marketing bit of the place.
Yeah, I mean that's usually what the old world understands, and and so it's fine. I mean it's good. But I mean the atmosphere and the culture that emerges in places like that. I mean that's what it's about, and that's what the future should be about, and that's also what organizations can create, if they're really serious about it, and don't just want to put the label on it in their own organizations. But it is going to be a little bit of work, and quite a bit of work, and because we have to sort of reinvent really the way in which we do business. And the great thing about places like Seeds to Meet and other co-working spaces is that they're also in terms of the entire economy, they're like labs, they're like laboratories where you try out new things, and then they sort of filter through the rest of the society and the economy, and then we have to see how can you explain these principles that I tried to explain a little bit in my presentation. How can we apply them to organizations to really sort of bring them out of the 19th century into the 21st century?
Sebastian, I think there is something really interesting going on here, because economy of scale used to be about economy of scarcity. We created scarcity around us. We put a price tag on everything. And now what is happening, we are dealing with an economy of abundance. And that turns out to be much more scalable in many situations. It's about capitalization on commodities. Think of, YouTube, for example. What they did, they gave away the opportunity for every one of us to publish video online, and on your blog embed that. Sounds ridiculous from traditional economic standards, but now they have become the commodity. That's 60% or so of all internet video traffic is YouTube. And what they do, all the record companies are now getting money from there, and publishers want to buy visibility in those networks. The same with music. You used to download MP3 files. Now you can listen any piece of music on Spotify, and they capitalized on that commodity. Now Seeds to Meet is capitalizing on the commodity of public space where it could work. It used to be a scarcity. Now opening it up for everyone, making it abundant resource, they can capitalize on it. And that's sort of switch in thinking of how you you apply economic principles on these kind of things.
You earlier on said you don't run a nuclear plant the way like this. In which situations, in companies, organizations, or new organizations, doesn't it work? Where this sort of model?
Where it doesn't work.
Yeah. So what are the places? Because what you see here is, Roland earlier on said, it's a lot of individuals working together, of course, but a lot of big problems, or building, like you said, airplanes, etc. You need another kind of organization, I think.
No, I mean it's true. I mean of course, you know, as a nuclear power plant is always going to need some sort of hierarchical structure. But then, you know, again, maybe you could say that you know, some organizations do not need to sort of apply all of these principles. Let me give you an example. This morning we visited a hospital in Nijmegen, where there is a co-working space sort of in the hospital, and that was quite interesting. It was also quite interesting the discussion we had, because there is a, I mean, of course, you know, we're all crazy about technology and the fast development of technology and new media and so forth and so on. But then sometimes, you know, we're very sort of clumsy in applying it, because when you see, for instance, what's going on in sort of the innovative side of the Dutch healthcare sector, I mean, everybody is going on about technology, and everybody is sort of trying to throw computers, you know, and at problems, you know, without actually thinking about the structure that you know, causes these problems. What I mean to say is that sometimes, you know, digital technology per se, you know, is not the solution, but what you can learn from it, yeah, the sort of culture that comes with it, the culture of sharing and so forth and so on, you know, you can implement, for instance, in the health sector, and you can use it almost without you know, social media, without digital technology, but just sort of the principles behind digital technology to unlock the professional, yeah, the professional potential, the craftsmanship, you know, that you find there, and that is very important. So this is a different way of looking at technology. Technology is sort of showing us this stage of development we have reached as human beings, as sort of dealing with each other, without necessarily, you know, asking you know, patients to tweet with each other. I mean, that's of course bollocks, right? But I mean, it's not all about technology. It's what you can learn from the culture that comes with it, and that has then, you know, a very important you know, impact on the organization itself, and that's where we have to focus sometimes.
Yeah, there are some questions coming in about education, but that's the next session, and I'm really sorry, but we're running out of time. It's very hot here. People would love to get a beer quickly, but we still have 2 guests. So I really would like to thank you very much for being here with us tonight. Erwin, sometimes after I thanked our guest, you start.
Another question?
Another question, so feel free
I won't do that.
But I really like to thank you for being here. Maybe Erwin has another question, I don't know. Go ahead.
I won't. No, thanks a lot, you both. And for who's looking at to us at home, you can, of course, watch this later on, or tell to your friends that they should watch this interview later on, when you can find it on demand, for example, at fastmovingtargets.nl. For who's watching us now, there will be another interview in 2 minutes' time, I think, and we talk about the future of education. Of course, when we say the future of education, it sounds really good, but of course that's impossible to sort that subject in half an hour. So sorry for that, but we enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, and start the tape. Claire, welkom. Hi.